Preparing to live stream the webinar. Let's see. Are we on? I think it's working.
Yeah, we've been live for maybe a minute, according to my screen, so.
Oh, awesome. So welcome to the November 29th community call. Today we have Spencer and Michael and Brent, so it's a fun one. And we have a lot of fun stuff to announce today. Do you want to get started, Spencer? Let's see.
You want me to get started?
Well, actually, I can go because I really want to talk about this. So we have a new feature on the Reaction Commerce homepage, and this is our first time announcing it, so it's like a special one for the community call. We get a lot of questions about who's using Reaction in production, and we never really had an official place where you could tell us if you're using Reaction in production. So now we have a community showcase page. I will link that in the live chat where you can see who's using Reaction in production that we know about. We won't put your website on here if you've never heard of us. And we have marketplaces like Artlime. So we also have e-commerce sites from the US and also from outside the US, like nextlevel.com.bo, Bolivia, the official Samsung carrier there, and other things like that. So check that out. And we also have a form to submit projects to us so that we can add you to our page. So that's our new little community thing. And we have a lot of more new things actually to announce during our little 5-minute reaction stand-up. So Spencer, do you want to take it on?
You want me to talk about 1.6?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we talked about this a little bit during our last community chat. I think it was in the works. We have a release PR that is ready for review at this point. We have kind of one outstanding question right now that we're trying to resolve before we merge this. But I'm fairly confident we can get this merged today, and you guys will see release 1.6 able to be pulled in with reaction poll, reaction update by probably later this afternoon. So that's very exciting. There's a lot of things that includes. And again, we talked about this a little bit last week. The biggest thing is that we are now using Meteor 1.6. Meteor 1.6 brings in Node 8 and NPM 5. Node 8 is what? We were on Node 4, I think. So we jumped all the way up to Node 8, which is another LTS release for Node. Node 8 brings in the Node Inspector. It brings in just a lot of other kind of new Node features. And this is all bundled into the Meteor release, so you don't have to update your internal version of Node. We're also moving to NPM 5. NPM 5 is so much faster than NPM 4. So that alone should improve kind of your build performance, that initial startup of the app. I've noticed it seems to be a lot faster. When you first do a reaction init or when you're resetting your server. I can't say that's all due to NPM 5. It's probably due to Node 8 as well. But there are some speed increases that I've noticed. So yeah, we've got a blog that I wrote a couple weeks ago called Better Debugging in Reaction that kind of leverages the Node Inspector in order for you to be able to debug server-side code in Reaction using Chrome DevTools or VS Code or really any other type of tool that connects to Node's Inspector. So that's kind of a high-level overview. Was there anything else you wanted to dive into specifically, Machiko?
No, I think that was it. So over here at Reaction, we've really been just focusing fully on performance fixes and just fixes in general, and lots of kind of refactoring, like moving components over from Blaze to React, and clean up tasks like that. So so this is kind of like big new thing. I know you wrote a blog post about this, Spencer, but what has it been like using the Chrome dev tools to debug Node?
So I think it's pretty cool. You can run reaction using the node dash dash inspect flag, um, which then I guess permits you to drop debugger lines into your server-side code, or you can drop breakpoints into your server-side code, and then you can step through the call stack from the server the same exact way you would step through the call stack if you just dropped a debugger on your client-side code. You essentially run like a headless Chrome DevTools instance. But one of the other cool things is you can also do it from VS Code. And I have not quite made the transition to using VS Code as my primary editor. I still fairly reliant on Atom, and I've been using Atom for a long time. But VS Code does have a connector to Nodes Inspector. And so you can just be coding away in VS Code, decide you see something, you're not sure exactly how it works, drop a breakpoint right there in that line from that code, and it'll break the next run through on your server and allow you to inspect, just about everything that's going on. You can inspect all the variables, you can inspect, the call stack, you can step through, where did this particular variable come from? Where did this particular value come from? Stuff like that.
That's awesome. I'm really excited to test that out, and it'll be extra fun because we have a lot more tutorials and plugin updates and things like that, thanks to Michael and Brent. We have quite a few doc updates, but probably the most exciting one, at least for me, because I haven't actually been able to try it out yet. Michael worked on a new tutorial step that teaches you how to update a product schema with two different things, longitude and latitude for each product. And he's also bringing that to the front end by allowing a user to see a little Google map on each product detail page that shows where the product is from. And so this tutorial incorporates a lot of both backend and front end React, and like bringing in different libraries and type of stuff. So we have a new link to that tutorial. I'll add it into the live chat. Michael, do you want to talk about it a little bit?
Yes, I can try. Really, the origin, or where it all stems from, was original. We have a lot of questions on Gitter and in our forum when people are trying to extend our schemas, our simple schemas we are using and quite heavily in Reaction, and then was always kind of they were unsure how they can do it actually, or what is necessary to extend or change or modify a schema. So this was really basically the starting point from me to write that tutorial. And but then again, I was in the middle of writing this. I really asked myself, okay, but what are I'm going to do now with these new fields, or what would make sense? And then I came up with that idea to have just longitude and latitude on a product. It's a little bit of maybe an artificial use case. I don't know. Maybe it makes even sense to have it. But the idea was to store the latitude and longitude for a product, and then be able to show the location on the product detail page. And as Google Maps is pretty easy and pretty easy to use, and with a few lines of code, you're able to attach a map to the product detail page. And that seemed to me like pretty nice showcase to explain it, or show people how it can work.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we do get a lot of questions from all sorts of people about the different kinds of shops and products that they're kind of making Reaction for. And we get a lot of questions that's like, oh, how do I add a this kind of feel to my product? Or how do I add this kind of special feature to my product detail page? We also get questions like, how can I add, could I just write straight up HTML in my product description area instead to kind of hard code my way around this? And we get that question a lot. And so we've made a new developer FAQ and added a lot of questions to our admin FAQ as well. And that question and answer is in our FAQ now. How do I add HTML markup to my product descriptions? And we don't tell you straight up to actually just add HTML in there because we don't recommend that. And instead, depending on what you want to do, a better idea might be to extend your product schema, add that data into your database, and display it with a React component. And so we have both of those up now. So thanks, Michael. I'm excited to test it out. And let's see. You also made some updates for the reaction example plugin aside from that, right? I think.
Yes, I think there were some at least rephrasings. Also, we are quite getting a lot of hints from the Gitter channel right now that there are some passes are not correct. So aside of that, I'm just trying to get the doc straight because the core is evolving. We are doing some kind of code refactorings, and now then the question is always how to keep it up to date. So this is also a big part of my day-to-day work, just to keep the docs up to date, basically.
Yeah.
So the example plugin had not been updated for a while, so it did not really show how little Blaze we're supposed to be doing, which is really none going forward. Although there's still a little bit in it because there's still Blaze in the program, but it definitely updated it to here's how the current way you should be doing anything, and it's been a while, so it now it's basically working again. It wasn't working essentially for a while.
Yeah. So definitely keep asking us questions in either the Gitter channel or during these calls or as issues in the plugin or the tutorial, because we're all ears and we're constantly updating it. So yeah. And lastly, the last thing in our updates is that we have a new demo site. Brent, do you want to talk about that?
Sure. It's currently down. That's a little embarrassing, but so we've had since I started here for 2 years ago, we've had consistently a request like, hey, is this just a demo site I can go to see what's up with reaction? I don't want to install it. Like, it's not so much for a developer, but maybe for more business people who just want to look at it and see what's up with it. So so this is gonna evolve into quite a lot more. So I should talk about this a little bit. So basically, this is gonna be a version of Reaction that's always running. It's gonna reset itself every 55 minutes, and reset itself back to start. So you can get in there as an admin. You can log in. You can play around with things a little bit to get a feel for what we can do, and then it'll just flushes everything out. So everybody's got a fresh store to deal with. But this ties into another project that Michael and I are working on, and by Michael and I mean mostly Michael. In that we have a design. A while ago, we had this project where we actually created a design for we call it the swag shop, where it's like where we sell our own stuff, T-shirts and that sort of thing. But it's more of an idea of like this represents what the average developer is going to need to do to create a store. So it's theming. So it gets into all the theming, and it's a pretty customized experience. It's going to be a customized grid. It's going to be a customized PDP. So it very much represents what a developer would need to do. So Michael's working on that. There's going to be a series of blog posts talking about the process we're going to go through from the beginning to project conception to how we wrote all the various components, and then this plugin, the Swag Shop plugin, is going to be a public plugin as a sort of partner to the example plugin, which is really not the example. It's really not an example. It's really the tutorial companion files. So the Swag Shop will sort of be, this is an example plugin that really creates a new store and it'll actually be running we'll also have a version of this running for real, live, selling our gear. That's an actual store that takes money and ships goods. That's be running that exact same plugin. So it's sort of a little bit trying to dog food our own process here. Like, we're going to have a public plugin that actually runs a store, but you can see it. You can see how we did it, and it'll evolve as the project evolves. So I think it's going to be I think that's going to help a lot of people see what they need to do to get where they want to go a little easier, or in relation to, or as a companion to the current tutorial.
That's awesome. I'm really excited for that. I know I definitely learn a lot better when I could see both kind of the code and what it looks like locally and what it should look like in production.
And I think people just want to see, like, they want to be able to drop in a theme and see something and see it change from the generic reaction to something radically different, and see the power of theming. And we don't really have anything that shows that off, what you can really do. I mean, you can see from the showcase sites what you can really do, but this is we do something we do completely with just a plugin. Like, oh, you can really make it look completely different. It doesn't need to look like just another version of the stock reaction.
Yep. And just moving on to our coming up next section, we just have one plugin, which is that we have a reaction action next week. And during that reaction action, we'll be talking about some kind of company-wide non-tech stuff, but also we're getting a little tutorial on higher order React components in Reaction, and also how to set up a marketplace shop. So be sure to sign up for that if you're interested in that. Our Hack a Bugathon is still going on, and basically that means that if you make a pull request into Reaction, which also includes the docs, you're eligible to sign up for a raffle, and also to get some free swag not from our shop. You don't have to use our shop. You have to just do a pull request. We'll have the shop up soon. So that's still going on until December 15th, and you have some time. So yeah, let's move on to the Q&A. We got a question in from Gitter. It says, Patrick says, it seems like the new tutorial covers everything except how to add form fields to set the product's Latin long. I know we haven't added that in the tutorial yet, but does someone want to just kind of talk through how we would do that?
Yeah, this is actually, I mentioned it shortly somewhere. I remember I didn't do it just for the sake of easiness, because I wanted to get this thing out of the door, of course, but really I was wondering as well. I mean, it's quite natural, and probably it would be a great continuation or the next logical step, just to add somehow to make these both fields accessible through the dashboard in the backend. For the sake of easiness, I was just updating it directly in the database. I really would need to dig into the admin side of Reaction Commerce, how this is done in the back end. But in the end, it boils down probably just to overriding some React components and add these fields there, because the fields are really available in the schema, and the schema is passed to the client. So the client somehow has access to the values and can, of course, display it in the React component. What probably is a bit different than it was when I really joined Reaction Commerce or did my own project back then, 2-3 years ago. We really used Autoform a lot with Blaze, and nowadays I'm not sure if there is a status quo or a kind of form library we are using, or do we have maybe Brent that does know it better than me, if there is some kind of homegrown solution to really create forms automatically out from schemas. I don't know. Maybe Brent can say something to that.
Yeah, we have the form component, which is something that Mike Murray wrote, and it's definitely not a complete Autoform analog yet, but that is the goal. And also, I'm hoping that possibly Eric Doberton, who's the guy who wrote Simple Schema, will actually help us with that, like try to make it a good companion to our Simple Schema update. So it'll be. I'm hoping for a sort of feature parity with AutoForm, the simple schema, to our new form component in the Node simple schema.
So for those who haven't used it before, AutoForm is a Meteor package that does form stuff, but also it does validation, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, it auto generates a complete form from the schema.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, as we're kind of transitioning from Blaze to React, there's like a lot of other moving parts that we have to kind of update, but we're constantly doing that. So yeah, I look forward, Michael, to you updating the, the tutorial with new stuff. Let's see, do we have any more questions? What have been some of the big questions you've been getting lately in Gitter, Brent, and Michael? I know maybe Spencer and I have been like a little bit out of the loop lately because we just came back from the American Thanksgiving holidays.
I think the big question that we're getting right now is people are running into memory problems. That's not a super fun question, but people the answer is right now is you could pass I don't remember the exact syntax, but you could pass a flag if you're running into the problem. It's mostly Windows, I believe, and I think a couple of people have experienced on Linux. We're not experienced it on because most of us are on OS X, but it does happen. You could pass a parameter to reaction to tell it to basically use less memory. Even though it runs out of memory, the problem seems to be that when you give it too much memory, it just keeps on going and going and going. I actually do think it might be fixed with Meteor 1.6. Mm-hmm. I have not tested that to verify. I have a Windows machine that I've not tested it. So Windows people are right now are struggling a little bit. We're trying to help them out, but that seems the what is it? I don't remember what the flag is, but the flag seems to help most people with. Thanks, Sloan. It's tool node flags equals max old space size, and you can specify how much memory. And the trick is to actually specify less memory to keep Meteor from sort of like overtaking your machine. That's the big question right now that we're working on. We have sort of a partial answer to it.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see if we get fewer of these when we update to Meteor 1.6 / Reaction 1.6. Keep asking us those questions because on Gitter or in the GitHub issues, because it really does help us. And yeah, you may have heard it here first, but Brent has a Windows machine now. Yeah. So he is our official Windows ambassador.
They gave me a Windows. It's not even really a real computer. It's like one of those tablet computers. But the loan saying has been around for issue. I do think it's a slight variation on the memory issue that we've been seeing. We call it the 2-string bug here, but we've been seeing for a while now. But this one is where you can't even really start. Like you can't start the app at all. Like it's not dying after a while. Like it doesn't even start. But it is a memory. We've had problems with memory on Windows for a long time, that's for sure.
So we have 4 minutes left. Does anybody have any more questions? Oh, I can't remember if we talked about this on the call already, but we also have a new question and answer in the FAQ. How do I upload product images as a part of my data fixtures? Which I believe is a question we get quite often. Especially if you are dealing with a lot of products and each product has, 2 or 3 photos. It can get really tiring to have to upload them manually yourself. So we have that question and answer in the docs now as well. Thanks to Michael.
And Michael actually has a PR in for the client that will allow you to put images and other things like that, like fixtures, in your own plugin. So right now you have to drop them in one of the public folders at the root. You have to move them to be able to access them. And with his PR, once it's accepted, will allow you to actually package all that stuff in a plugin, which is also a super common request.
Awesome.
So Michael's been super busy creating community stuff.
Yeah. I hope it's noticeable from kind of from the community side that we've been ramping up all this stuff. Community showcase page, demo site, more blog posts, all this stuff. So we're really.
Yeah, I don't know if people know that, like, basically Michael and I, our job is essentially just to serve the community now. Spencer runs the core team, and I'm running the community team, and our job is essentially like, I think it would call it developer evangelist in other companies. So our job is just basically to like help developers out tools and goodies for them to use. So.
Yep. So yeah, it looks like we don't have any more questions. So we must be doing a good job at tackling those questions in Gitter and things like that, or at least I hope. So yeah. Let's see. Spencer, was there any other thing you haven't mentioned yet that's coming up? What are we working on after 1.6, Meteor 1.6, Reaction 1.6?
So, I mean, we're continuing our focus on performance. That's going to be the focus probably for the next, 2 months at least, maybe the next quarter. And there will be other features and bug fixes, I think, that come out of that. But the major focus is on, drastically improving the performance in every aspect of Reaction. We're hoping to improve, performance on the developer side. How long does it take to restart the app? How long does it take to repaint? How long does it take to, be ready to start testing the code that you just wrote, which I think can be a fairly large barrier to fast development. We're also, highly focused on improving the performance of a deployed version of Reaction. The interaction performance, the performance of, how long does it take to get to first paint on a deployed instance and stuff like that. So that's going to continue to be our focus. I think there's a lot of work we have to do there, but also a lot of improvements that we can make that will improve everyone's experience with Reaction.
Awesome. And we have a lot of that stuff all kind of sketched out in GitHub if you want to check that out too. So it sounds like that's the end of our call for today. Thanks for joining us. And we'll see you next week at Reaction Action and the week after that for the next call. So bye.